Thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled to be standing with the people behind me who are both advocates for affordable home ownership and for tenants' rights. Today we take a significant another step to keep residents in Seattle and create home ownership opportunities in the city of Seattle. As a city and a region, the crisis of affordability, housing, and homelessness is the central challenge that we face. I think among many people in Seattle, I was so surprised last week when I read that the median income for the city of Seattle now is $91,000. We know many people fall far below that, but that is what has been driving the costs of our city today, where both rental units and home ownership is increasingly out of rent. We're the fastest growing city in the country, and with that has come amazing, enormous opportunities. But it has also made it a tougher place to live, and more people have been pushed out. As rents have skyrocketed, we've also seen the opportunity for folks to own their own home almost vanish. If we want to be a city that really is based on equity, that grows the city that's going to be diverse and welcoming, we have to make changes to that. And although there is much left to do, we have been focused on this since I became mayor, and just since July, I want to remind people some of the things we are doing to increase affordability and to keep people in place in Seattle. We updated our tenant protections in partnership with Councilmember Lisa Herbold, and we'll be signing laws today. Along with Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda, we invest in 175 new permanent supportive housings and their associated operation and maintenance without raising new taxes. Working with Olympia, we were able to keep part of the sales tax dollars here in Seattle and put them to work for the people of Seattle. We sold the Mercer property and got nearly $300 million in public benefits for the people of Seattle, including units of affordable housing right on site. We have $42.2 million of that to provide affordable housing and really address the pressures of displacement here in Seattle. We've also have a $15 million to create a new revolving equitable development initiative fund to have that loan fund available for those great projects we know that are necessary to meet our community-based organizations and community in place. $15 million to increase investments in permanently affordable home ownership opportunities. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today in signing. The home ownership opportunities are so critical because fewer and fewer people have that opportunity, and it's one of the key ways that you can both anchor people in our communities and build wealth. We also have a new fund to help people build backyard cottages and apartment units so that we can have more family housing. We renewed the multifamily tax exemption program, which provides 4,500 affordable units in the city of Seattle for both low income and middle income. We know the middle income people are being squeezed out quickly in Seattle. Our teachers, our nurses, our firefighters, many people can't afford to live in Seattle anymore, and we need to change that. We also announced our fair share plan to ensure that drivers are paid nothing lower than a minimum wage, but also a very modest tax of 50 cents, which will give us $52 million for more affordable housing in the city of Seattle. And we also released a plan for $25 million in new funds that are available because of the real estate excise tax, which will also put toward affordable housing. In 2 years, we've announced over $700 million of affordable housing in the city of Seattle. We will keep focusing on that today. Today, we're here to sign 2 advances to the list. First, we're signing a suite of tenant protections. And we know how important tenant protections are because 2 ways to make sure people can live in Seattle: make affordable places and make sure people don't lose the places they have. The third is to build equitable opportunity. Today, we're going to be reducing the burden and cost of electronic banking requirements for tenants. We will lower the likelihood of disputes over rent. We'll improve knowledge to both landlords and tenants to make sure people can stay in place. And we'll make sure that we increase compliance with our laws. Second, I'm very excited today to be signing the actual transfer of our 2 surplus City Light properties, which will create 27 permanently affordable homes for low and moderate first-time home buyers. It's going to be very exciting. Thank you for everything everyone's doing. One of these sites is in Finney Ridge, and the other is in Loyal Heights. And both sites provide new opportunities that are very exciting to have those opportunities in some of the highest opportunity neighborhoods in Seattle. As part of the transfer, we'll create great opportunities. We'll also make sure that Habitat for Humanity, which is developing the Loyal Heights site, will have $720,000 to help create 8 family-sized townhouses. And Homestead Community Land Trust will leave $1.5 million to create 19 condominiums at the Finney Ridge site. These are amazing opportunities, but they're things that are possible because working with Olympia, Frank Chop, and Teresa Mosqueda, we made sure we could take public land and put it to work for the public, to use our public lands and to make more affordable places so in the future we can have folks of every background, every economic strata, and every race living and working in the city of Seattle. I really want to thank Teresa Mosqueda and Frank Chop for all of their leadership on this, and thank Councilmember Herbold for hers. And now it's time to sign the bills and make it official. See, multiple pens, so they're actually used to sign the law. Or we could just stay here all day. That's right. I kid people, and when I get to the last one, I say, should I just stop? Do we really want this to be the law? And see how I use exactly what they tell me to? I am an obedient mayor. We're taking steps for affordable Seattle one step at a time, but really making progress. Thank you for everything you all have done. Now you guys got to grab the pens because you've earned it. And I think if there's any questions, I'll take a few questions and answers too. Thank you very much, everyone. You can stay or you can. Matt.
Can you explain, is this a very pertinent strategy, a priority for you to sell surplus land for strictly affordable housing? I mean, are you basically, some people would akin to like, I'm having a garage sale because I need to raise money, and obviously you're trying to raise money as much as you can for affordable housing. Is there a parallel to that?
Actually, what we've done at the very beginning, when I came in, I signed an executive order. We're evaluating all of the city properties to see what is the highest and best use and what are those that we can put to better uses. When we have those parcels of property that we think could be used to affordable housing, we want to put it to use for that as quickly as we can. So we got the law changed so that it enabled us to do that. We'll be looking at a variety of strategies. Sometimes we'll keep the property, do a long-term lease. Sometimes we'll sell property. I'm Irish. I don't like to sell dirt. But we saw, as you know, Matt, when we sold the Mercer property, we asked for proposals on either a long-term ground lease or an outright sale, and the long-term ground lease just didn't provide the benefits back to the people of Seattle. So we want to make sure that we maximize the use of all the land the city has, but also are very cognizant that once you dispose of property, you don't get it back. And in a growing city, we want to make sure that we're really careful and really use property for its best use. In both of these cases and other cases, I think that the city can smartly put its land to use to make sure we have open space and affordable housing. Any other questions? If not, thank you all for being here.
Let me ask you one quick thing
So
on
close.
something else. Sorry. 3 deaths from fentanyl with young kids in our community. What are you doing? What conversations have you had? What needs to be done?
There's a range of things we need to do. I'm very concerned about both the rise in fentanyl and in methamphetamines again. I've been talking with mayors and law enforcement on the West Coast about that. Chief Best and I are meeting later this afternoon to decide whether there's additional strategies we can do. It's got to be holistic. We know we got to get together with community-based providers. We have to have a broad education plan, both at young school level and for families. And then we have to be having better treatment modalities so that we keep people from having not just access to these drugs, but overdosing. But we've seen now that I was talking to the mayor of Vancouver, BC. They have not seen the shift that we're starting to see with a higher increase in methamphetamines. When I met with the mayor of San Jose this week, they've seen a great deal of their heroin traffic be replaced by methamphetamines, which have a greater impact both because we don't have drug treatment for those the same we do with opioids, and they create different behavioral problems on the street. So we are very concerned with both the rise in fentanyl and meth.
What about specifically 3 high school students dead?
It's terrible. I mean, it's the fact that there's access to drugs at all is alarming, and that the fact that they are laced with this very deadly drugs. You know, I've talked to Denise Juneau, head of the schools here and other schools. We need to do very deep education, and parents need to do it, schools need to do it, because many people believe that drugs are not dangerous. They are very dangerous. And having drugs laced with fentanyl is almost always deadly. So losing high school kids to this is tragic for everyone, and we know what we need to do to stop it. We just have to come together as a community. Thank you for asking about that. Matt?
You're aware that the federal judge in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, gave the green light to Safe House to open up a supervised injection site there. San Francisco immediately announced that they plan to have an overdose prevention site. That's what they're calling it. The city's talked about a mobile site. Given that court ruling, are you going to push for a mobile site, the re-talks of that, start them up?
I'm waiting for the city attorney to give their analysis on that case. My understanding is Department of Justice has asked for immediate appeal, and as people know, the U.S. attorney here who represents the Department of Justice has said he would act to close this down. So we need to see what happens. I believe we need holistic solutions to our opioid crisis. Number one, we need the drug companies to quit pushing opiates to the extent they've been doing. And I'm very thankful that the city and the state are both trying to hold those pharmacy companies accountable. Number two, we have to have better treatment and prevention for people so they don't end up addicted to things. But once people are addicted, we led the nation in developing needle exchange programs, which we know save lives. It makes no sense to have needle exchange programs to tell people, here's your safe needles, and have them end up in our parks, near our schools, on our streets. We are better than that and smarter than that. So I think that if you have these community health engagement locations that have both the access to treatment and the ability to make sure people don't die from overdose, that it is a smart way to go. But obviously we have to do that in conjunction with our partners at King County and have to be realistic on what the Department of Justice is doing. Thank you very much for being here.